Hi, I'm Peggy Brown. I'm the owner of Generation Senior Moving, and I'm here today at the Overture, and we're covering some topics that will be helpful to you if you have newly moved to the Overture and you're still in the organizing, decluttering, fitting into the space mode, or maybe you're thinking about moving to Overture and you're overwhelmed at the thought of coming from a much larger house with 20 or 30 years of accumulated possessions and trying to fit those into a smaller space. I'm here to tell you we have moved over 3,000 clients in our almost 9 years, and it can be done, and it's very freeing when you do it, and it relieves a lot of stress in your life. But when you are approaching the downsizing mode, it can be quite overwhelming. So I have some tips I want to share with you today, regardless of where you are. If you moved here, you likely brought perhaps a box or two or multiple albums of pictures. Pictures are very overwhelming to people because it's an accumulation of a life of adventure, right? And we're hesitant to throw pictures away. I would say if you are getting into the mode of downsizing, don't start with pictures. Start with something easier. Let me come back to pictures in a moment. So you get better at decluttering and purging items as you go. You realize you can't keep everything. You're trying to fit it into a smaller space. And so you do get better at giving up without feeling like you're totally giving up your whole life. But start with something small. You could start with, my example here is wine bottle openers. I have 6 and I use 2 that work very well. One's broken, one just looks like a fish and I don't care for it anymore. So I can purge and I can keep 2 of those. Now that's kind of tongue in cheek, but that does apply to a lot of things that we accumulate, right? I have 4 toolboxes. One's in my garage. It's way too heavy for me to bring into the house, and it has tools I don't even know what they're used for. So I could probably get rid of that toolbox or give it to my kids and have a smaller tool chest, tool drawer maybe in my house. And I need what? 2 different kind of screwdrivers, a hammer to hang pictures. That's about it. So think about where you have multiples. Go to your closet. We'll talk a little bit about clothes later, but go to your closet. How many khaki pants do you have? And how many khaki pants do you wear? I have 4 khaki pants. One doesn't fit me. The other's a little too casual. And so I have 2 that are my favorites. I could narrow that down a little bit. So approach it that way. Let me go back to pictures for a moment because I do want to talk about pictures. When you have some experience under your belt at decluttering, go back to your boxes of pictures or your albums of pictures. You don't have to totally reorganize your whole life. You can decide how you want to organize pictures. I did mine by child. So I have books that are organized for each of my children, believing that at some point they're going to want those. Indeed, when one of my sons got married, I did want to go back and find some childhood pictures of him, so it was nice to have those in a book. I still have those books. I haven't sent them off to my kids yet, but one of these days, when they have kids of their own, they will want those books, I hope. If you have boxes of pictures and lots of duplicates, like a lot of us do, approach it from the standpoint of maybe first purging. You can purge pictures of the Grand Canyon that don't have any people in them, right? You've saved a lot of fun trip pictures, but you can go to the internet and find a beautiful picture of the Grand Canyon. And my guess is you don't go back and enjoy those pictures that don't have people in them. So you can purge those. You can purge duplicates. You can throw those pictures away. You can look through pictures, and if there's someone that you don't know in that picture, you can throw that away too. We collect a lot of historic pictures, right? My aunt kept a lot of family pictures. So she made duplicates for everyone in my family. Then my mother had some of those, and I had duplicates. And we had this kiddo that just kept showing up in our pictures, and he didn't have the family traits that any of us had, and we weren't ever sure who he was, but he showed up in pictures when we were children. We could tell it was in my grandmother's backyard. We could see our siblings and cousins in there, but we didn't know who this little fellow was. So we held on to those pictures of him. There were pictures of him by himself at the fish pond in my grandmother's backyard, and we kept saying, who's this guy? Held on to it because we thought he was somebody important. He was the neighbor's nephew's child who came over to play with us. My aunt finally told us that when we said, who is this guy? So we held on to that picture all those years thinking he was an important guy. And there were lots of pictures of him. We were able to purge those if we wanted to. So you can throw pictures away. So you decide how you want to organize the pictures. You can digitize pictures. There are becoming cheaper and easier ways to do that. If you don't look at them now in albums, you're probably not going to look at them digitized. Though I do like the photo frames that keep turning the pictures over. I like that because you get to see those and see fun pictures, and it moves by itself. So just think about what's important to you before you dive into spending a lot of money on digitizing. But that certainly is a way to maintain pictures and share those pictures with your family if that's what you want to do. Okay, so back on track. Let's talk about downsizing tips some more. There's a book out, several books out now by Marie Kondo about living in smaller spaces. She has some great tips in there, and one of her tips is that all things have their place. So an example is shoes. If you have your shoes in a pile in the closet, you don't know what shoes you have, likely. I don't want to get down on my dirty closet floor and dig through looking for that black pair of slings that I wear once a year to weddings. But if I organize those in shoe racks, I can put those less often worn shoes kind of in the back off to the side where I know they're there if I need, or I'm going to a wedding, but I don't have to dig through my shoes to find the ones that I wear every day. By having things organized like in a shoe rack, or your tools in a toolbox that you can easily get to, then you're more likely to use them, and you're more likely to put things away. So when I come home at the end of the day, I've got a spot on my shoe rack that was holding these navy blue shoes before I left this morning. And when I go back to my closet at the end of the day, rather than piling my shoes up again for the whole week and ending up with 8 pairs of shoes piled outside the closet, I'll take these shoes off and put them in the empty spot on my shoe rack. So once you have things in their place, it's easier to put them back in their place and to be able to find them and reuse them. Which leads to the next category. If you can't keep track of something, you probably have too many of them. So let me tell you about my toolbox again. Big old heavy toolbox that's in my garage. I have a little tool basket on a shelf in my utility. I have a little toolbox in the top of my closet, and I think I have a little drawer. I shouldn't tell you all my secrets, but I'm confessing here so you can relate to this. So when I moved, I had like 3 glue guns because I didn't know where my glue gun was. And I wouldn't go out to the garage to find the glue gun. It's like, I don't think it's out there. And then I had to look 3 other places. So it was just as easy to go to the dollar store and buy a new glue gun. You know, not a huge investment in glue guns, but that can be repeated over and over again in more expensive possessions. Had I had one place where I kept my tools that were used for craft type things, I could have gone right there and found that glue gun, used it, put it right back in its place. So having multiples of things isn't necessarily a benefit to you if they're scattered all over the place and you can't remember where you put them anyway. If you don't like something, get rid of it. I call this the daughter-in-law syndrome, right? Phenomenon. So I have a lovely new daughter-in-law, and she's given me quite a few things, and I like most of what she gives me. But if she gives me some decor that doesn't quite match up with my taste, I'm probably not going to hold on to it, and she's probably not going to look for it when she comes to my house, because I don't want to display something out there and she says, oh, mother-in-law loves what I gave her. I'm going to give her another one for Mother's Day. And then I have two things I don't like. So that's harsh. I know that's harsh. But if you have things you don't like, don't feel like you have to hold on to those out of obligation. Family heirlooms that were worth something at one time, or that came through the family. And maybe it's a tea cart and your grandmother had it and it came to your mother and it came to you, and you're holding on to that tea cart, and yet it's seen better days. It has a broken wheel. Every time somebody bumps into it, everything falls off of it. You know, now may be the time when you're choosing to live smaller that you choose to say goodbye to some of those things. So Marie Kondo would say, you thank it for the service that it has provided you as a tea cart, and you pass it along to somebody else that can enjoy it. Lastly, I would say that if you are living smaller already, if you're living here at the Overture, or you're contemplating moving to smaller spaces, don't buy in bulk. Sam's and Costco won't like me saying this, but don't go to Costco and buy 72 rolls of paper towels right now. Probably can't get them anyway, but you just have a smaller space to keep things in. So we all think, oh, we'll buy in bulk and we won't have to go back and buy more. It doesn't really save us shopping trips, I don't think. And we have the burden of trying to find storage for a big item that takes up this much space, when we could be using that space for something more important. So that's the last piece of advice I have about downsizing tips.